All right, there's a lot of things I can remember about Dad that have been special and that I love about Dad, so I'll just talk about a couple of them. One, I think Dad taught us to always work hard and have confidence in ourselves. He always made us feel like we could be successful at anything. He always taught us to put God and our family first and has been a great example of that. And he also has taught us to persevere through hard things. Our family's gone through a number of hard things through the years, and he has taught us to continue forward in trusting in God and our family, and in persevering and having dedication and hope even through difficult times. And I love you, Dad, and appreciate all that you have taught us through the years and all the ways that you have served and loved us. And I know that my family always loves that you can always figure out a problem no matter what it is. So we love you. Thanks.
I like how Grandpa Nelson carves cool things. I like how you play board games with me.
I like to make things with Grandpa, like carve an elephant. We carved an elephant together, soap doll, we made a little axe, and when he comes over to our house, he tells us stories before we go to bed that he makes up, that they're always really funny.
I remember Grandpa told us a bunch of stories about when he was a kid and all of the cool things that he did, and all of the sometimes crazy things that he did, and they were always really fun to listen to because he's had a really interesting, exciting life. And I remember that my dad told me about when he was a park ranger and some of the cool things that he did then, and I don't know, it makes me want to do more while I'm still young. Seeing a bunch of people my age kind of blowing off, doing cool things, so that they can do boring things. I don't know. It makes me want to go out and do more like he did.
Okay, now.
So, hi, Grandpa. Happy 80th birthday. One thing I like about you is that whenever you come to my house, you get to play guitar with me. And one thing that's cool that I think that's happened to you is the first time you went golfing, you got a hole-in-one.
There's three things that I remember about Dad. One is the time he spent out with us in the yard. I'm not sure that was always my favorite time to be out there, but I definitely learned how to work hard. Sometimes that may be a curse to me now, but the ability to work hard and love to be out in the yard and doing something you can see the results. The second one was home teaching. Dad just took me to home teaching when I was little, and I appreciated him doing that. And I remember one time that we were supposed to go and see a family that lived up by the church, and I couldn't find Dad, so I thought he'd gone without me, and we weren't supposed to go across the street by the church. But I ran all the way up there, ran across the street, went over, didn't see his car, went back and everything, never told them that I had crossed the street because I was afraid I'd missed going home teaching. And then probably a third one is traditions. Remembering all those traditions that we did, going to cut Christmas trees, to go out and look at the leaves changing and buy pumpkins. Those kinds of traditions are things that I look forward to, and I've always remembered the time that he took off as we went across the country for those 2 months. What an opportunity we had to be able to go see all kinds of things, but to spend that much time all at once with my dad.
Okay. Hi, Dad. There's a lot of things I could talk about, so I had to limit it to a few things. So some things I like, you taught me to think about things, take things apart, put them back together, do things with them, learn how things work in the interest of what will happen here. One of the other ones is to enjoy nature. What birds are, what plants are, what animals are. To enjoy the times in there. One of the great things I remember is the 4-hour class you taught me when I came back from my mission for that introductory systems engineering class. So, and you know you did a good job because I got the highest grade in the second semester of it. Last thing to say, it's been great being able to come here and help you work on your houses and spend time talking with you and thinking about how these things should work and how you want to make things different and improve where you are. I love you, Dad. Thanks. Bye.
I remember when we made that puzzle, and I liked how you made that slingshot.
I like going to the beach with Grandpa when he visits, and also I remember a time when it was in the summer and we had flies all over our backyard, and the entire time he was there, he was swatting flies.
All right, so the first experience I remember Dad when I was young was our trip across the country where we took a 2-month trip. Can't remember how many miles, but I remember, learning to fish. I remember going in some caves. I remember putting up the trailer every single night. I bring up that example a lot with my kids, and hope to be able to do a similar trip with my family someday. Another one that really sticks in my mind is a school trip that we had where we went down to Penn, and the school was visiting the Egyptian exhibit, and you got to come during my lunchtime, and we sat down and were able to eat lunch together. I don't know if you remember that, but that was a great time for me. I remember having a lot of fun with that. Another one, this is after most of the kids were out of the house, but I remember we both stayed up, like to stay up late, or I guess not like to stay up late, but we did stay up late because we were working on things, and I remember some of the NBA championships being on, and I remember sitting down and watching the basketball together, and I enjoyed that. And the last thing was priesthood ordinations. I really appreciated being able to be ordained by you and be able to get get blessings from you when I needed them. So anyway, love you, Dad, and happy 80th birthday. See ya.
So I am alone and I have no one to video me, and a selfie video is just a little too up close and personal. So I am choosing for my video to show the plant that Nelson nurses and takes care of every time he comes to see us. It would not be alive without Nelson, and that is the first thing I love about Nelson, is he takes care of our plants when he comes. He gives them special treatment. Secondly, Nelson is always very appreciative of whatever I put on the table. He always eats it up and always acts like it was just great no matter what it is, and I really appreciate that about him when he comes to visit. Thirdly, there is a quote that says, "You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream." And that to me is Nelson in a nutshell. He is always eager and motivated to learn something new, to become better at something, always busy, anxiously engaged in a good cause. And I am grateful for his example and wish him a very happy 80th.
When you made a bunch of different wooden weapons for us, Grandma wasn't very approval of that. When we made darts and threw them at corkboards, and I used those little wooden knives you made me, and a double-sided spear. And yeah, when we go fishing and stuff, it's all just really fun with you.
I remember way back at our old house, the downstairs was shaped like a circle. So Grandpa was so tall, he would put me on his shoulders and he'd run me around. But we had this little doorway that he was too tall to fit through, so he'd have to duck down to go through. I always remember that was the most fun part of running around. And I also remember
he was my counselor for the wood carving merit badge, and my first wood carving job wasn't too great, so he sent me back, and I got a little bit mad. But I now realize that it was good that he sent me back because I was able to actually learn something out of that merit badge.
I always appreciated when Grandpa came to my Eagle Coat of Honor and all my important stuff I had, like my baptism. And I also remember when Grandpa helped me with my wood carving merit badge because I cut my finger open and almost cut my finger off, and then my dad super glued it for me.
Alright, one thing I always remembered about Grandpa is that he taught me about the stars. He would take me outside and show me which ones were parts of what constellations, and he also showed me using a computer program, and he taught me the names of the stars. The one that I always remember the most is Betelgeuse because it is not spelled the way it sounds. And then I've always loved seeing Grandpa's carvings. I thought it was really neat that he could hand carve such beautiful things. I love his very smooth dolphin, and I really like the old man with the beard that sits on the windowsill. I love you, Grandpa.
Alright, just some things I really love about Grandpa. I really love how he is always there to help me figure things out whenever I wanted to build something or try to do something. He's always there to support that and come up with ideas, and really love he built my bed, a little design that I had seen on the internet, and he did a really great job, and he built it, and it was awesome, and I love it. And I always remember when we were younger, whenever he'd come in town, he'd come and every night he'd tell us these stories before we went to bed, and he'd make them up every night, and that was always really fun and special for us. And when Tristan was there, Tristan was like, every time Tristan would be, I know this one, but Grandpa was making him up, so he didn't know this one. But it was fun, and yeah, I love you, Grandpa.
There you go. Happy 80th birthday, Dad. I remember my first Sunday in Philadelphia, and that was the first time I met you as you came to my ward as a state visitor, and you have always been very kind and concerned, and I appreciate that about you. I remember all the work you did on our house in North Carolina. That was very appreciated, and all the games you would play with my children, with building Tinker Toys with Kyle, and always explaining how things work, and answering questions and being very patient. Congratulations on 80 years. I love you.
Nelson, I appreciate the chance to tell you a little bit about what I've been thinking. Appreciate everything you've done to make me feel welcome in this family over the last 20 years, and to help with our kids, and the joy our kids get every time you come to our house is something I really appreciate. Not to mention all the things that you fix when you come to my house. So really appreciate all those things, and really am grateful for you as a father-in-law. Thanks.
All right, Dad, I thought of another one that I wanted to bring up is a fishing trip that we had. Can't remember where it was. I'm sure you'll remember, but I remember we were fishing, and I said, hey, Dad, is it okay if I got my new fishing pole wet? And you yelled over and said, yeah, no problem. Don't worry about it. And then, a few minutes later, I think you heard something like, hey, Dad, I could use a little help. No, that's what it was. Hey, Dad, is it okay if I got a little wet? And you said, yeah, no problem. And next thing you know, you heard something of, hey, Dad, I could use some help. And you came over, and I was neck deep in this fast-running river. And I had my fishing pole, up over my head, and I said, I kept my fishing pole dry, and yet I was soaked. But anyway, I appreciate you teaching me to learn to fish and to take care of my stuff. So, thanks.
So after Brett talked, I had to share though the story where you always looking at things to do, and so one of those was one afternoon that you wanted to look at how do you communicate like with the paper cups and the strings. And so you and I spent like all afternoon with number 10 cans and small tin cans and stranded wire and thin wire and nylon string and cotton string and small Dixie cups and big cups and styrofoam cups and all this kind of stuff. And in the end of it all, we discovered that regular cotton string with a regular sized paper cup, like any 3-year-old would have used, actually works best. So the next time we want to take things apart, let's ask the 3-year-olds. I'll be there.